Hello, and welcome to Guys Dealings with Feelings, a podcast focused on men's health, emotional awareness, identity, responsibility, and presence. Jason, a licensed therapist with over 18 years of experience, and I, being profoundly affected by the death of my son, share grounded conversations and practical insights to help men navigate modern life with clarity and intention. If this podcast hits home for you, please like, share, and subscribe. A quick 5-star review helps us reach more men who could be helped by hearing this material. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Apple Podcast under Guys Dealings with Feelings. What's up, Jay?
Howdy.
How you doing, man?
Morning, man. I'm
So
all
today,
right.
good. Yeah, I know you're a little under the weather. So today we're gonna try to tackle at a high level beliefs and how they're formed and how they trap us.
Yeah.
And kind of what we're focused on in this episode, we're aiming to help men understand that most beliefs are not truths, but conclusions formed from past experiences. When left unexamined, these beliefs will quietly run behaviors, relationships, and emotional patterns. Most people believe they see reality clearly. In truth, we experience life through filters created by past experiences. Those filters, which are created by our beliefs, are often formed unconsciously during moments of pain, stress, or confusion. When beliefs go unexamined because they shape our behavior, they dictate outcomes. We find ourselves trying to own our circumstances, but if we don't get to this portion of understanding what these beliefs are, it's a tough tackle for me. But we're going to have a hard time getting across the finish line as far as a totality understanding of what it is we're trying to get across. And I thought I go into this in the book, and I thought that when I saw when I sat down in a room and took the room in, or I saw a tree or whatever, everybody else saw the same thing. And that's not the case. And that blew my mind at first. Excuse me, but something that really just settled it for me. And I was like, okay, I do see how that happens to me. So we've got these filters that I referenced, and these filters are created by our beliefs, which, Jason and I are about to dive into. So you know what we're talking about, and it's not like, what are you talking about? That's bullshit. A tree's a tree. We have the reticular activating system, I think, or something like that. Reticular activating system, I believe is what it calls, RAS. And this is the filter at the base of our brain that takes in and instinctively why it's there from the hunter-gatherer days is to know what was a tiger, what was an okay mushroom, what was a bad mushroom, and let filter all this other shit out so that we could find said mushrooms and tigers, because those were true threats to our existence. Today, what it is it's not really part of our little world. So we filter it out. If we were to, the brain was trying to, the processing of the body was to get everything that it takes in to our conscious selves, we would be so overloaded and crippled, we really wouldn't leave the house. And so the brain, or whatever, this filter, the RAS, does this filtering. That's not a tiger. That's not food. That's not something we have to worry about. So in reality, that's not a scary thing. That's not something our beliefs have told us we needed. Uh, and so it filters it out. And a way to test this and to show you it works is whenever a new car is the easiest one to use. And when you Google it, I think that's what'll come up. When we buy a new car, so we get a new car, we get a red Toyota Camry. And all of a sudden everybody's got a red Toyota Camry, where the day before didn't anybody have one. And the reality is there was just as many red Toyota Camrys yesterday as there are today. You just filtered them out because they were not part of your life. And so we're doing that at an extreme level all the time with smells and sounds and sights and all the signals being sent through the process. What is actually getting to the conscious self. So we're going to dive in first talking about how beliefs are conclusions and not facts. And this was tough, and that RAS really helped me understand and really get how that works. So beliefs form when the mind assigns meaning to experiences, especially during emotional overwhelm or childhood. The event may be real, the meaning may be not. So now we're going to let Jason jump in and talk to us a little bit about how that occurs and how it is that an event is not the event itself, but a part of an event burns, quote unquote, something into us, our bodies, our beings, as a belief, and what's going on there.
Yeah. How does that
Yeah.
happen? Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know,
well,
man.
just
Your
why so
guess is as
beliefs are
good as mine.
conclusions, not facts, and how we draw a
Well,
conclusion to
I got you. I
mom's in the
got you.
kitchen, and she didn't hear
Yeah.
us kneading.
Well, let's, I, man, what I love to do, honestly, is just, look stuff up, right? Because if we use a word like like belief, right? Like, what are we actually talking about, right? Like, okay. So, well, I looked it up. This just gives us a starting point, right? You know what I mean? Like a reflecting place. So I like that. It isn't an opinion that you hold, or right. It's a deeply wired mental model that the brain treats as true enough to guide your entire reality. Psychologically, it's a subjective conviction about how the world, other people, or yourself work. Uh, Neuroscience frames it as the brain's best predictive map of reality. Like, feel so. Like, what are we actually talking about? Like these deep seated mental maps. Like, right. So, and this is just an exploration. I'm exploring it with you. Like, what are we?
I like the mental map. Yeah, that seems, it seems so true because it's our we've collected all this data,
Yeah.
and, um, so I think that's where the data we've collected is what it is, and I think a lot of us know when we look back at our childhood, that probably wasn't a good thing for a kid to go through. It's, "Oh, wow, that probably could have affected a young child. I didn't feel like it affected me, but yeah, I could." So we know that data is not pure. The intentions in that moment were most likely not what was best for you, the child. They were just whatever was happening in the world around you, if it was your parents or whatever, and so we live these things and they affect us in a certain way, and that's why I said something about the mom in the kitchen. The child is there, looking for it doesn't may not even know what, doesn't receive it from mom because she's on the phone with the electric company trying to keep the lights on, and the
I
child is
think in that.
affected and a belief is
So,
created.
yeah, let's start there. So, I think it's again a belief. What is that? Right. So,
A
about
map,
what? Right.
yeah, a part
Yeah.
of the map is generated.
Right. About what? About what the world is, what I am. Right. So, it might be helpful to simplify it as unpleasant. Something's unpleasant. Right. You could call it a need, or I don't. Something that we're experiencing is unpleasant. I'm just trying to simplify it as much as possible, right? So there we are. There's something unpleasant, and we're expressing something, right? And okay, so for a lot of us, when we did that, uh, it- when it was met in the environment by our caregiver, or whatever, or a peer, or whatever, it might not have been received in the most kind way. It's a good way of saying it, right? Nobody to blame, just right. So I don't know. What I can imagine happens is that unpleasant that we're experiencing, it doesn't have anywhere to go. You know, doesn't have any context, and so I don't. Somehow that seems to be interpreted as like we're unpleasant, or whatever it is, that energy that's trying to be expressed, that's not safe. That's unpleasant. That's not safe, right? Uh, is this helpful, the way that we're
Yeah, it
exploring it?
is, and I think it leads into the next piece, which is that the mind, whatever the process,
Yeah.
creates beliefs to protect us.
Yeah.
So there are
Yeah.
survival
Yeah.
strategies designed to predict danger, avoid pain. What once protected us, it's now limiting us. So, like I said, what was looking for just tigers is now filtered out a bunch of stuff we don't want filtered out. And the tiger has created it in most of the time I would think somewhat memorable to the affected individual events, a lot when we're children, but we'll get in here in a little bit how trauma can really drive them home. But
Well, and I
just
have
as
maybe a practical example too, just sort of popped in my mind. Okay, like let's say we're, 6, 7 years old, and
six,
we
seven.
we actually yeah, we actually disagree with something going on. We just have our own opinion about it, our own our own disagreement to something in life, and we're expressing it. But then, and I mean, I have a stepson. I mean, I understand. But then our caregiver essentially is is telling us that's not okay to express that for somehow, right? Whatever it is. Okay, so we are constantly trying to give our caregivers what we think they want. You know what I mean? So one of the ways that we might do that is to stop expressing that energy, whatever it might be, right? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, okay, so then maybe we learn to not express anger or whatever, a certain need. We learn to not express it. So then you can just imagine how that translates into our adulthood. But what we're actually in a relationship with is that energy. It's the the feeling, the energy that we develop a distorted relationship with. We forget uh we're conditioned out of knowing how to express it in a healthy way.
And it seems that they stack on to one another. And so it gets more restrictive to the point where we don't even take on new beliefs because we have a belief that taking on new beliefs is going to foul us up. So we get to a point where we'll even lock ourselves down. Again, we'll get into the traumatic part here in a little bit, but we are still forming beliefs at all points. But I get what you're saying, where you have a negative or positive. Part of the roadmap is laid. The ground is laid in the map when you have feedback. Feedback good, repeat behavior. Feedback bad, try to avoid behavior. And as we what I was trying to say about bad data is that road is being paved with bad data. It's being
Yeah, the
depending
information
on
is
the
incomplete. It's a
yeah, but yeah, depending
yeah.
on the environment around you, and as hard as we try as parents, and so I definitely have empathy for mine. Uh, we fuck this up, and we're not going to have the appropriate response. Probably a lot, but at least sometimes, and in those moments, part of the roadmap is laid that can really kind of turn the boat when it shouldn't have, just on an environmental response. And I say parents because that's the easy target. It could be people at school, it could be a teacher, it could be an embarrassing event, things, any of these things that happen. And a lot of times we'll see uh, that it happened. If my pants fell down in gym class and the girl I liked was there, now I'm like
Mm,
crazy about keeping my pants cinched up tight,
yeah,
and I
you
wear
can
three
see
pairs of underwear. And
how
so
they
you
link
really
together.
see,
Yeah,
yeah, you can see
yeah,
as a 50-year-old what's happening. It's that inner child thing. We're not going to get into the inner child part, but that belief was formed in gym class the day that the pants fell down. And then here we are, that, at 50, and we wear three pairs of underwear and two belts and a pair of
yeah.
suspenders. You
It's
know what I mean?
yeah.
And I'm exaggerating on
I know.
purpose to let it be known that this has literally happened to us our entire lives, and we can, and then something else can even happen as adults where we pile in another whole layer on top of an untapped layer of this stuff. So what goes on? I want you to, and I'm sure you run into this in practice. Unexamined beliefs running in the background. So beliefs silently shaping decisions, reactions, and relationship patterns, keeping us stuck in repetitive loops. And that's where in the opening I got into. I think even when we want to have ownership for, like, look, I've made some stupid ass decisions, so I understand why I'm living in a van down by the river. Uh, but I don't understand why I keep, every time there's a red balloon, I freak the fuck out. I can't. and every time I freak out, it's another bad decision made that keeps me in the van down by the river. So I'm trying to take ownership, again, exaggerating. This can be whatever, you're not where you want to be. And you think, hell, I'm trying. I don't understand it. It feels like I'm walking in quicksand, salmon swimming upriver, whatever. And it's because we haven't really tapped into these unexamined beliefs. And maybe the question to you ought to be shot if that doesn't get an immediate response from you. Another way that you've put it in the past is how we can understand the way that we are acting or reacting based on these, and then how can we open that book and say, oh, okay, and have a relationship with that.
Yeah, man, I mean, it's such a deep question. Uh, I think it might be helpful to kind of distinguish a couple different, like, dimensions. So, like, when we come into this world, right, we are given information. We have to be. I mean, we're given our information from our culture, right? Our culture says, "Here's the story. Here's the skinny. Here's what's going on. Here's how you got here. Here's how your all your people got here, and here you go. Here's what's going on." You see what I mean? Now, I'm starting to move, I think, in the direction of territory that we don't generally think a lot about, you know, right? So, at the core level, this has to do with identity. Who are we? What have we been told about who we are, about who other people are? You see what I mean?
Which we dove into in episode
Yeah,
2.
yeah. So for us, for our within our culture, our attention has been completely dispersed, right? In the direction of things outside of our body, outside of our immediate experience, right? So we don't know what we're feeling, right? So a belief at its deepest level is conditioning, and it's generally a misunderstanding, right?
Of that reaction, good, bad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whether it was the
Like,
circumstances or how you reacted.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like that's just describing an interpretation, you know?
And it lays our roadmap.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so, so really, what's going on with everybody is a chronic habit of misinterpreting our own experience. You know what I'm trying to say?
And
Uh,
that's the part I think maybe I was trying to say is stacking on itself. So we
yeah.
create a belief that creates a lens that then we see the next thing and miscalculate it and misinterpret, right?
Yeah, that's what happens, but, I mean, we're not creating it, right? So, yeah, so for
Consciously.
instance yeah, okay, I'm just gonna refer to my own experience, right? When I at a certain point in time, I recognize this wasn't until 40, man, and what I would call recovery. When I say recovery, I'm referring to the recovering of a connection to my life, my own expe this the reality of my experience, what I'm feeling, what's actually happening, you know? At a point, there was a recognition that I had no relationship with life, not really, you know? Uh, and especially not the deeper questions here, not really, you know? And so I, uh, I had no I had no clue that, all the agitation that I experience and continue to any agitation that I experience in life is a misunderstanding. And it's me misinterpreting something that's happening out here that I'm seeing in the world. It's like all of it.
Yeah, so where do you think you were able to get, we'll stick with your personal experience. And look, I don't think 40's that old to be realizing that you don't
It
hadn't
was
experienced life at
I don't
all.
know. The best way I can describe it is it became and continues to be more and more clear where it's sane to put my attention. It's not sane to put my attention on anybody else and anything else and what they did or what this is happening or what might happen, or it's just it's that's not a sane thing to do. What's sane for me to do is keep my attention right here on my
Existence, your personal
moment to moment
existence.
to yeah, what's actually happening. What am I feeling? You know?
Mhm.
Uh and do I know what it means to know what I'm feeling? And then how do I have any sort of resources available to me to help?
And did you f so, but I'm trying to go back to the beginning
Mm,
where you were able to, get a relationship with your beliefs and really start to grasp them. Was that part of recover and where did you find that? And I don't mean what step necessarily as far as I mean
yeah, I got you.
experience.
Yeah, let me well, when things got bad enough for me, right? It's like in your experience, and it made me move inside, right? It became more and more clear to me that what I call belief, what we call belief right now, honestly, is deeply related to our reactivity, being agitated with things, right? And then my own healing process showed me that what that's actually about is decades of not knowing what I'm feeling and how to be responsible for what I'm feeling. And because there was a habit of not knowing what I was feeling, then it seemed like everybody else was responsible for what I was feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think you
Right?
should
So
I'd like you to go into it more though, because I think that's so real that
it's how it operates.
because that's
So
so
what
how it
happens when
feels.
if you just think of your consciousness sort of like a little bubble around you, and it's this environment, it's like a jungle or a beach, and if we're not aware of our own environment, right? When it's agitated, what will happen is the thinking patterns, the story will generally turn in the direction of other. So either the person that's contributing to it or the situation, something outside of our self. Or it will it can turn inward and be really focused on the self and very critical of ourself.
And in both instances, I believe that they're going to have a tremendous um, have a tremendous impact on the outcomes in our lives. The
Yes.
first scenario where you're saying where you're
It
looking at it and
creates
you
our
see it's somebody else, it's a problem because of the relationship issues that creates because this is some shit happened inside of us that we're projecting out onto someone else, that someone else is using someone you're in a relationship, think wife, spouse, partner, whatever, friend, coworker, yes, no, whatever. Uh, and so there it is. It's quite. This is how it's running our behaviors. It is this, and it's a compounded understanding and misrepresentation of what it is that's actually occurring around us. And without diving inward to Jason's point, and a lot of times it's when we hit rock bottom. It's Joel dying. I had tried to do. I thought I was trying to work on myself before Joel died, just from childhood stuff, and that I had some awareness on, but I was still pretty blind. And Joel dying really drove the nail all the way through me to where I was like, there is no way down. So we got to go up from here. And there was a way down. There was further to go. I get it, but I had fallen far enough. And so but I still wallowed around for it's like 7 years and doing what you're talking about, looking outward. And I would still be doing what I was doing, but I turned inward. And so that I believe is the key there. We continue to look on the outside. We are not going to find solutions. When we go to the inside, we will find solutions, and in solutions, we will find healthy behaviors and reactions, responses, not reactions, responses. We'll find things to protect ourselves that are real and not misinterpreted. And when we have agitation, to Jason's point, we can reevaluate because we don't agitation is not common. in a calm existence. In the existence I used to have, and you too, agitation was a constant. And so you don't know when it occurs because it's so fucking constant. It's constantly occurring. It's just churning. It's a chili. You can't pick out the red pepper in the chili. There's no way you're going to find the red or the salt. You're just not going to find it. You're going to taste it, but you're not going to find it. And in agitation, it's like chili. Whereas when you're healthy and you've worked on all these things, you're identifying them and you're kind of rolling. We often talk that we have to keep working because we do, but this is how you can identify it quickly and jump right on these things. Is now agitation is a disruption to the calm presence that is the norm. And so now an agitation comes in and it's like a complete fucking monkey wrench. It's like
Yeah.
a turd
Yeah,
on our
you notice
salads.
it.
Yeah,
You
it's like a
notice
turd
it.
on the salad. You're like, yeah, I'm not eating that. It's got a turd on it. And so you can definitely pick it out. You can see which one or what item it is.
You know, can I say something real quick? Let me try to express something here because I think it's really a matter of semantics, man. Because in my experience, what has happened the more that there's been the healing process has occurred is less and less beliefs. If you really, if you really like, what am I to believe? Believe about what? You see what I mean? So, um, in my experience, belief was a part of my was a part of the culture, part of conditioning that actually removed me from directly experiencing my life. And it wanted me to experience it conceptually up here in this realm of concept and belief and like what the fuck. So here, what I know is when I'm going through life, I'm either at peace or not. I know that to be true. And come to find out, you can actually do some things that help you be more clear of why you're not at peace and what that's actually about, right? And a way to talk about it is that we were conditioned into the the realm of belief and concept, and we were conditioned outside of our direct experience as human beings, directly experiencing in our body what's actually happening. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah, well, we got all these filters on us. And you're
mhm.
saying remove as many of the filters as you can identify that
Yeah,
are not, safety filters. You don't say, I'm going to eat any mushroom because I don't need
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah,
filters.
yeah,
And you end up the fucking dead
yeah,
dude. But if you take the filters that you're able to identify as, what are we doing here? Type filters.
yeah.
That's
Think
great. And
about
that,
here's how I believe. Let me see how to describe this sort of. All right, so we're born, and when we're born, our brains and our systems are very plastic. They're very open. There's not a lot of associations yet neurologically, and right the nervous system's very open, right? Okay, so we have experiences, we're taught things, learn things, and associations start to form, right? And a way to talk about what we're talking about, like a belief or um, a way that our unhealthy patterns or unhelpful patterns as adults form, you can imagine this is the same experience as the little kid in the kitchen, right? Like neurologically, what happens is there's this literal neurological wiring that occurs that says, "Hey, that feeling not safe." All right, so you see what I mean? So there becomes this conditioned neurological relationship in the brain with that energy, with that feeling. So let's just take anger for as a simple example, not simple, but just as a as an example. So now every time that energy comes up, the brain says, "No, no, it's not safe to express that. It's not safe to feel that." Right? So, I don't know. As a kid, we might have started to develop all kinds of habits of we might go off by ourselves. We might bite our arm. We might scream. Who knows? You know, uh, there's a lot of ways we might have
Learn
or
to.
learn to express that safely or not express it, you know? So that follows us into adulthood, right? And the way that we grow is by learning how to feel the energy without expressing for a while. Does that make sense? I hope that.
It does, and that, that goes back to dealing with emotions, which we dealt with a couple episodes ago, where you have to identify. You have to, when your identification method is broken, you've got real problems, because you're and that we're gonna walk into trauma accelerating belief formation with this, because of how what this does. Trauma, I believe, leads to a lot of bad um, road making, because of how it really just fucks us up. The event just or events, how they just that so the trauma compressing meaning into certainty is the way I've got it here. And these
Yeah.
beliefs feel true because they're stored in the body, not just the mind. And we go over all the time that, with the references to the books, The Body Keeps a Score and the like, that trauma locks into our bodies, and so it's there as so that's a lock. And how that experience then becomes part of our identification, or our how we feel and experience things. And so then from then on, that filter has created a fucking cheese grater for the information coming in. So all information comes in way skewed in the direction, because we've really gotten protected now. See, your kid can die. Now, and in hindsight, I feel so responsible, and it's not just me; it was our whole family. But after Joel dying, we have Francis, and then the pediatrician said, "Well, yeah, we're going to put her in a bubble, and she's never going to do anything, and you're going to forget everything you've learned so far raising these kids." Obviously, he was being tongue in cheek, but it's impossible to not. Don't do that. Oh, don't do that, because in your mind, you can draw a direct link from that event that you're trying to prevent to a dead child. And it still happens, but I'm now able to say, don't do that. You're going to hurt her more than you're going to help her. Hey, sweetie, watch when you cross the road. You don't have to say watch when you cross the road because
Because
you're going
you're
to get hit by a
able,
car. It's going to kill you.
because you know what you're feeling,
Mhm.
right? Does that make sense? So you're aware of your environment. And so that then helps you navigate what you communicate, right? Uh, and it doesn't mean that you don't notice some agitation and shit. You just know how to go, okay, just,
Right. That's
you
the
know
point.
how
That's the
to,
point.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's valid. I think as a father, it's valid to be freaked the fuck out after one of your kids dies. Like,
There's no
it,
judgment around anything that comes up. That's the point.
right.
What happens for us as adults now is there's this constant internal judgment around what's coming up. And that's chronically what's happening, right? Uh, and
Just another
so
condition and another filter, right?
yeah, and then it makes it difficult for us to express ourselves, to communicate, express ourselves just in a healthy, straightforward way, you know. Uh, I mean, for good reason, you know. It's there's as humans, you can see we're really relationally at a really difficult place, you know. We're very we're very easily manipulated or convinced of us and them paradigm, you know. Anyway,
Yeah, but I think that's just a result of how fucked up we are individually. And it's being played on us so hard and so
mm,
easily at this point. We've got the constant with
yeah,
the phone in our hand, and the social media is really easy to push out the messages to manipulate us. And so it's like everything's on hyperdrive. Plus, our system has created these beliefs and buffers and shit trying to protect us from this crazy shit being thrown at us
yeah,
constantly. a
Yeah,
lot to get us to spend money. And
yeah.
so, uh, all of that compounded leads to this broken human who is then easily drawn right into the fray of conflict and I don't this person is the reason why and it's just I think a macro example of what we're talking about and we've got to get back to self um and really focusing on when we're healthy we can get out there and talk about being healthy to others and maybe help them be healthy. But when we go out sick, we're just slinging sickness around just like and that's what it is as a bunch of unhealthy people that are they're really upset and they're hurt and they don't see any way out and it's easier as Jason said earlier we were doing it on a micro level but as Jason said earlier it's easy to point that it's something external it's on the outside these things are all happening on the outside and we fall right into the what I call a trap but call it what you want to call it and so we've got to take I think the appropriate actions especially in the times that we're in right now is to focus on self even more and trying to master that. And it's going to feel uncomfortable out in the wild anyway, once you get into the things we're talking about. You start to identify these things. Why, why is somebody talking to me like that? Or why is this even happening? Like being in the masses is a little harder. So it's all part of it. And just, we talk about it. So we'll go through real quick why beliefs don't change by force. They loosen when they become visible. So awareness creates choice. So that gets back to what we were talking about earlier how if you can just get to a point where you're aware of what is occurring, then you can tackle is it an appropriate response or not. So navigating into it, you understand I'm going inside. Uh, why do I react this way? My fiance says she doesn't want to go to the trampoline park. I hear she doesn't love me anymore and is going to leave me because of a belief created because of some dad issues I've got. Right. So now I can say, hang on a second. Do I really feel crushed that she doesn't want to go to the trampoline park? Or is that just some bullshit that I'm telling myself? And so that goes into our tool of the belief audit. This is the tool for this week. And that's something these are some questions we can ask ourselves. So, what just happened? Girlfriend said she didn't want to go to the trampoline park. So, we're going to stick to the observable facts. She doesn't want to go to the trampoline park. What story did my mind immediately tell me? And I believe some healing has already occurred. Um, Hopefully, you're
Hmm.
doing some of the other tools we've talked about because I believe that step two in this one is if you haven't, you're disadvantaged because you're not you can't you don't know what story did my mind immediately tell me fuck I don't know that she was going to leave me no well, you just said it was she didn't want to go to the trampoline park how did you're taking it from doesn't want to go to the trampoline park to doesn't love you there's a problem we got to draw the line we've got to draw the line and so some healing's probably going to need to occur but what story do we tell ourselves so this identification when did I first learn this story so why would I think that she wants to leave me or doesn't love me because she doesn't want to go to the trampoline park I've got abandonment issues. Well, where did that come from? Well, my dad not being around. Oh, okay. Well, then she just doesn't want to go to a trampoline park. It doesn't have shit to do with her love with me. So I learned this as a child. And is this belief helping me now or protecting an old wound? In this instance, is protecting an old wound clearly not helping me now. I'm lashing out at my partner as if she's actually said something that hurt because it did hurt the hurt is valid to Jason's point. Don't judge the feeling, investigate the origin. And once we know the origin, we say, "Ah, that's what that is." And, we'll have an episode on inner child, but that's where we dive into kind of that all these things that happened to us as a child that have become the the little guy driving the boat inside of us. So being able to understand and comprehend these things was a big deal for me. Really changed Um, it changed how my relationships with other human beings. It changed obviously how I felt, and I think was a key in being able to respond versus react.
Yeah, and here's how it plays out in real life. The more we're able to connect thinking and feeling, the more you're able to see how you're not seeing it right. That you see what we call taking it personal or any agitation we have, in my experience, means I'm misinterpreting something. So, right, in that a way to describe what you're touching into is the when the thinking and feeling connect and you see what's related to what. And so then you see that the feeling is related to what's being thought about, not what's actually happening in reality. You see what I mean?
Yeah, and it's such a hard
Yeah,
well, i
it's
i until
elusive.
you get there. Now once you're
Yeah.
there, then now you're seeing it as it
Well,
is,
and
but
then it's a process of learning how to detect that more subtly and more subtly and more subtly.
yeah, which again, I think a lot of that has to do with how calm we've been able to get the whole system in general, and then we can notice the least the
Yeah. It's like being
disruptions are
able to
easier to
it's like being able to stay the eye of a hurricane and kind of stay centered and notice what thought patterns are there instead of being swept up by them. You know, anytime we get swept up by a thought pattern or a quote unquote belief, that's we're getting swept up by the past, you know?
Mhm.
So it's just a misunderstanding. It's just limited perspective, you know?
Yeah. It's wild. This was a big turning point for me understanding this and really getting to a point where I was like, "Oh, okay," because you can make up so much ground because you're in control, and that was
Well, you start to
instrumental.
have some, I guess you could call it choice. I mean, it's a awareness, right? You're aware of what's happening in your experience, not, so then, oh, you're irritated at, well, no, I'm just irritated. Like
Yeah,
I can't really tell what her interiority is and what her intentions are, like this is
yeah,
me. I'm irritable.
yeah, and you'll catch I'll say things inaccurately in that, and you'll catch them. 'em. You'll be like, "Now hold on, that's not you're
Yeah,
saying." I think you've talked about clients will come in and say, "Well, no, they did such and such." No, you're explaining a reaction that you felt when they did something, and that again, that's ownership and turning inward versus outward. It's just a key focus shift and massive in changing how we're seeing and experiencing this journey. So, in conclusion, most of us are not trapped by circumstances. We're trapped by beliefs formed during moments when awareness was limited. Beliefs were attempts at survival, but survival is not the same as living. When a belief becomes conscious, it no longer runs life automatically. That is where freedom begins. As always, thank you for giving us your time, your most valuable asset. Until next time, stay in the fight. The world is a much better place with you in it.